Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Report. I hope everyone's having a fine Friday afternoon, April the 11th. Looks like I got to size this a little bit better. It's just not fitting. Out of breath. I just went for a sprint. I realized I didn't have a beer before the show and went during the intro. Probably one of the most athletic things I've done in a while. Zach, we've got a 5-game slate to close out the week. Pretty fun one. Also got the Masters in full effect. We've been sweating the Masters out all week. Been fun. Funny story really quick. I obviously put some research into my picks, and we've got this fairly large Masters pool we do every year. And my wife is currently winning it. She won it 2 years ago, leading it right now with absolutely zero research put into it. I'm in 24th. She's in first. I'm like, this is unbelievable. So shout out her. Hopefully Justin Rose can continue to carry her. But how are you doing today, Zach?
I'm doing all right, man. Got a week to start preparing for the 999 challenge, which is a little bit unfortunate because I built the sickest head-to-head lineup for today's show, and then you dropped it on me today that we're not doing a head-to-head because you beat me. So yeah, make sure everybody tunes in next Friday night. It's going to be a stream, that's for sure.
Yeah, let's get today's daily face-off head-to-head or head-to-head lineup. Oh, I win, and you've got a lot of beers. A lot of dogs, a lot of baseball in your future. We had some funny chats in the DFO DFS Discord yesterday that some people were saying the hardest part about it all is going to be watching a full baseball game. So obviously some hockey fans maybe don't tune into 9 innings of baseball on a regular basis. But the 999 challenge, if you missed it, I beat Zach for the season in our head-to-head lineup challenge. So he will be completing the 999 challenge on stream next Friday during the Blue Jays game. Should be a lot of fun. Can Zach press? Although 18 beers and 18 dogs may get messy, yeah, that would be a shit show. So better be dressed for success, Borat style.
Listen, nobody needs to see that, guys. Come on.
a Borat outfit while doing eating 9 hot dogs would be insane. Starting to fear for your lives. Zach complained about walking a couple days ago. Now Brock sounds like he's dying after running to the fridge. It was a full ass sprint. I am in pretty good shape, to be honest with you, but full ass sprint in 3 seconds. So okay, does Brock get to pick the beers? That's a fun one.
Oh boy,
that's a fun one. That's a fun wrinkle. Maybe next week we'll have a 4-game head-to-head where if I win, I get to pick the beers. But you can do it, Zach Chestnut Jr. Here we go. All right, add some fun. Let's get into tonight's slate. I don't want to waste too much of your time here. We got Jake Allen starting for the New Jersey Devils. Pittsburgh Penguins will go with Tristan Jarry. Pretty meaningless game. For the most part, Linus Ullmark will projected to get the start for the Ottawa Senators in a meaningful game against the Montreal Canadiens. They're kind of jockeying for, I guess you could call it, the luxury to play the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round. That's probably a rude way to put it. I got to give the Maple Leafs their flowers. I mean, they're going to win the division. But I think both these teams are probably lining up to play against the Leafs right now. I think they both would relish that opportunity. Would be really fun either way. The Lightning projected to go with Andrei Vasilevsky. Peter Mrazek projected to start in the second half of back-to-back for the Detroit Red Wings. It'll be Calvin Pickard again for the Edmonton Oilers. Georgi Romanov starting for the San Jose Sharks. And then Calgary will roll with Dustin Wolf against the Wild tonight. That game is absolutely massive. Those two are basically jockeying with the St. Louis Blues for the 2 final wildcard spots in the Western Conference. Shannon says we should do it on 420 so he can get some help eating those dogs.
That's good thinking. I kind of like that idea.
We could consider it. All right, let's get into tonight's slate. We've got New Jersey and Pittsburgh at the top. The Devils are minus 185 home favorites. Just a 2.5 implied total for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but they still grade out as the number 1 line to target overall tonight, simply given the fact that they are outstanding, but also they just play a ton. So Ville Koivunen was moved up to that top line in their last game, kind of midway through. He's at $3,100. He was wildly popular the other night. He's going to be wildly popular again tonight, I would imagine, especially with everybody basically jamming Connor McDavid in tonight. You're going to need to find some salary relief somewhere, and Koivunen's a good place to start. In terms of the matchup tonight, it's not really ideal, for Pittsburgh one. They're going to see about 50% of their ice time against the Nico Hischier line. That Nico Hischier line has been quite solid defensively, doing a really good job limiting high danger chances, which is where a lot of the Pittsburgh top line opportunities come from. That being said, though, they still play 32% of the 5v5 ice time for the Penguins. So they're red hot, right? The underlying metrics here are great. Koivunen provides some really nice salary relief. We've kind of talked about them a lot lately as a get different option. And then the other night, we were jamming them in when they were outrageously expensive. And now they're back to a point where they're pretty modestly priced. $7,800 for Crosby, $7,000 for Brian Rust, and obviously Koivunen up there at at $3,100 brings them in at $17,900 to full stack. So pretty affordable price tag. And outside of Koivunen, I mean, Crosby and Rust really not seeing all that much ownership. So they've been a pretty strong charts play for us recently, and I feel pretty strongly about getting back to them again tonight. Zach, before I get your thoughts on this, they do have the number 2 power play overall over the last 10 games. They do go up against the 11th ranked PK, though, so bit of a tougher matchup, but both these power play units have been red hot as of late. What are your thoughts here on Pittsburgh 1? Are you interested in maybe mixing in some Pittsburgh 2 as well? They have a much better matchup. Their underlying metrics not quite as good, but they were an interesting option the other day, mostly due to Koivunen, but Malkin's been solid lately. Raquel's been solid. They're not really seeing much ownership either. What are your thoughts here on the Penguin side of things?
Yeah, I definitely got interested in this Pittsburgh side. Pittsburgh 1 has been a great kind of get different spot as kind of an even expensive line. Like, I think I'll get there tonight on this slate, no problem. I'll probably be a little over the field on Koivunen in terms of some one-offs, but full stacking these guys looks really appetizing. The price point for him is really nice here. I think there's a lot of things that you can kind of do with this line here tonight. So I certainly have some interest. The matchup's a little bit scary there for sure. But at the end of the day, Sid the Kid. He's having a tremendous season this year. 1.9 goals per hour over his last 20 games, 4.0 points per hour. Brian Rust has been solid over that time as well. I've got interest in getting to this Pittsburgh side for sure. I don't know if I feel as good about Pittsburgh 2 as I do Pittsburgh 1, but I think for 20 max, I'm willing to throw a dart here on a little mini stack of Malkin and Raquel. I'm pretty comfortable leaving Danton Heinen off from that trio there. So I don't mind that idea whatsoever. Won't be going too crazy. Definitely going to mix them in a little bit though.
Yeah, just to showcase how kind of solid that line has been. This doesn't fit on the screen. Let's make it. There we go. Raquel, in his last 10 games, 3 goals, 9 points, 9.7 DraftKings points per game. Malkin at 8.4. So they're pretty affordable, right? 56 and 5,200. They've been solid since Malkin returned from injury 6 games ago. So yeah, I don't mind them as a bit of a get different. Koivunen's been really solid too. 6.3 DraftKings points per game in 5 games at just $3,100. And then their defensemen continue to represent pretty solid value as well. Letang, Carlson, Grzelcyk down from 4,100 to 3,600. He should be a popular option tonight, I would imagine. I just want to bring over the team trend chart here because like the Devils are large favorites in this game, but they're really doing nothing at 5v5. It's been mostly their power play doing all of the damage as of late. And the same thing can kind of be said against the Penguins, but both these teams, in the grand scheme of things tonight, on at 5v5 at least, are 2 of the worst defensive teams on the slate outside of Ottawa and Montreal. They're among the worst. So this game, I think, has a bit of high-scoring vibes. I think I like the Pittsburgh Penguins side of things. I think I like the New Jersey Devils side of things a little bit as well. The Devils, I'm probably a little bit more heavily focused on the power play stacks as opposed to the 5v5 stacks because these are just pretty atrocious numbers. But when you take a look at the Devils side of things, the top line grades out 3rd best overall. Really good numbers there. 18,500 to full stack them. But then you got to drop all the way down to 15th to find New Jersey 2 at 16,400 over their last 10 games. Where are they here? We've got them. Over the last 10 games, Nico Hischier, Timo Meier, Luke Hughes have done most of the damage. So again, we talked about this the other day. It is kind of a pick'em spot here. You've got both those top lines representing pieces of that top power play unit. You've got Hischier and Bratt, then you've got Meier and Mercer, and they've all been kind of their top dogs, as you might imagine, considering they're only scoring on the power play right now. So I like the idea of kind of mixing and matching some of these Devils forwards with Luke Hughes at 5,000. Probably going to be one of my favorite defensemen tonight. And just getting exposure to this power play, which looks like it's in a pretty good spot. Granted, the Penguins penalty kill has been solid, but this Devils power play, as you see here, has just been running scorching hot as of late. 12.3 power play goals per 60 over their last 10 games. So I'm interested in some Devils power play stacks. Are you going to kind of trust the process here a little bit with the 5v5 stacks they're in good spots? And like the underlying metrics, especially on this top line, it's very good. But they're just really struggling to convert here at 5v5. So are you more focused on New Jersey 1? Are you more focused on the power play? What are your thoughts here?
think I'm just going to sprinkle in the power play mini stacks here for the Devils top line and this second line. Bratt, Heischer, Hughes, Mercer, Meyer, Hughes. I think that's kind of the way to go here in this spot. The 5-on-5 numbers have been, not that great as of late here. Obviously, the power play is hot. I don't feel like super confident in this Devil side of things or anything like that, to be totally honest. But this power play being as good as it is, I think it's just piquing my interest a little bit. That's kind of where I'm looking at in this game. Pretty much just going to meet the field, but through the power play.
Speaking of the field, New Jersey won coming in about 8.4%. Pretty even distribution of ownership across all three. New Jersey 2 coming in about 5%. So, when you look at the slate as a whole, this game does feel like one that could get pretty high scoring, and it's not seeing all that much ownership. So I'm pretty interested in getting to this game quite a bit and just hoping that it does kind of materialize the way I am anticipating it too. Let's just take a quick look here at this is not what I wanted to do. Pittsburgh. So these two teams have met 3 times so far this season. The Devils won 3-0, 3-2 in a shootout, and lost 7-3 in mid-March. That night, who did all the damage for the Penguins? Is it that top line? Did Sidney Crosby cook them? No, mostly just the depth pieces scoring 7 goals. But Crosby had a goal. Crosby had an assist. Malkin had an assist. Ricardo had a goal. If you had to rank these games in terms of overall stacking interest, where would this one fall for you? Third?
Yeah, I think probably third. I mean, Edmonton, San Jose, a lot of interest there, just like the public does. Got a lot of interest in Tampa 1 here tonight. I think they look like a great spot. And then, I think this game would probably be third on my list. And then it'd probably be a toss-up between Ottawa, Montreal, and Calgary, Minnesota. Those games, it really feels like it could be a coin flip either way.
Javier says, it's my daughter's first birthday. First time I ever won DFS was on my son's 3rd birthday. Hopefully I can repeat the birthday magic. Happy birthday, baby Hernandez. Big one today. Let's get to game number 2. We've got the Ottawa Senators and the Montreal Canadiens. The Sens are small home favorites at minus 137, 3.2 implied total there, 2.8 implied total for the Canadiens. Matchups in this game, pretty good on the Ottawa Senators side of things, not so much for the Habs, except for that second line. In terms of the team trends here over the last 10 games, both teams, as I mentioned earlier, pretty poor on the power play. Both teams not that great on the PK. They've been getting good goaltending on the PK, but this is another one of those games that feels like you said, could kind of go either way. Both offenses have been fairly stagnant. The power plays haven't been great either, so it's a matter of, can these offenses take advantage of the kind of lack of defensive quality we've seen from both teams as of late. It's somebody said it the other day when we were doing the stream. I think it was on Wednesday. It's hard to really get to the Ottawa Senators without Brady Tkachuk, right? The floor has seemingly dried up for the entire team without Brady in the lineup. And you can kind of see it here. Nobody's really doing much from the Ottawa Senators side of things. Jake Sanderson's been solid. Drake Batherson's been solid. I've been pretty interested in that Cousins-Batherson duo. They broke that up, so they're going with completely new lines tonight. I think I'm going to end up still getting on Ottawa because, when you look here, the price tags on the entire roster are very affordable. So I don't mind just dipping my toe in here with the Senators because people are playing them, but they're not expensive. The top line, Perron, Stützle, and Batherson, just $14,900. The second line, just $13,700. The problem is I don't know really which way to go here. I think Stützle Batherson is probably my preferred route to go. I don't mind leaving Perron off. I have to. Cousins has been meh without Batherson. I don't feel all that strong. Claude Giroux's been really quiet for the last while. Zetterlund's just kind of okay. I think Stützle Batherson would be my preferred route, but I'll probably get some exposure to both these lines just given the fact that they're really cheap with, how much upside they still kind of have here in a pretty good matchup. So what are your thoughts here on the Sens?
Yeah, I think I've got some interest here in this Ottawa side of things. I think mainly just because of the price points. Like you mentioned, like pretty cheap to kind of stack these lines up. Whether you want to go a full stack route or you want to kind of go mini stack route. The power play, it's been struggling here for Ottawa as of late. Not having Brady Tkachuk there, I think, has certainly impacted that. But they still look like they're in a pretty good spot against like a really undisciplined Montreal team right now. So I think I've got some interest in kind of building with that in mind here. I'll probably have a couple mini stacks here. I don't know how much full stacking I'm going to do. I think more of my interest kind of comes in that second line still with Dylan Cousins there. I've really liked his game since he's arrived here in Ottawa. Fabian Zetterlund, this is a guy, tons of shot volume on him. 8.7 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games played. Gives him a nice little bit of a floor here. And I think that's kind of the route that I'm looking at here. Is this second line a little bit more so than that top line? Even though Ottawa 1 does have, some better line stats, the matchup here for this second line looks to be really appetizing here tonight on this slate. 69% of their ice time, nice, going up against Montreal 2, who are absolutely brutal defensively. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this Ottawa side of things. I don't think I'm going to get too crazy here, but I don't mind sprinkling them in. I think it's worth mentioning Montreal can clinch a playoff berth here tonight if they beat the Senators in regulation. So I think this is going to be a pretty motivated Montreal side coming into this game here.
Yeah, I mean, they've basically locked it up. But yeah, I mean, it would be, it's simply a formality probably at this point. But yeah, like I still think like both these teams, they're jockeying for position too, right? Like one of them is going to play Washington, one of them is going to play Toronto. Kind of pick your poison on which one you'd rather have. To me, like I said at the top, I think both would rather play Toronto just because maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, top line, really good metrics. It is worth mentioning Montreal has had the Senators' number this year. They've won all 3 games in the most recent meetings. Kind of a mixed bag here in terms of results, but Montreal 3 has had a tremendous amount of success against Ottawa this year. In the one game, Dvorak had a goal and 3 assists. Gallagher had a goal and 2 assists. Josh Anderson had 2 goals. In the other game, Brendan Gallagher had a goal and an assist. Josh Anderson had a goal. Christian Dvorak had an assist. They've had their number, and that's a line that you like to get to a lot as a value option. They still have really good offensive metrics. The issue is they have the worst matchup score on the entire slate tonight, so it's going to be kind of like a pick your poison here. Do you buy into the solid offensive metrics and the past success against this team? I don't mind taking a stand on them at like 5%, right? Like not take a stand, but like taking a stab at them at about 5%, mixing them in. Just maybe they've got their number, but the 0% matchup score scares me a little bit. I'm a little bit nervous about this, like the second line. Like I think they're okay. The matchup's fine, but the underlying metrics are pretty bad. I think like maybe a line A one-off. I still think that Montreal 1's the only line that I feel comfortable with full stacking from the Montreal side of things on a regular basis. They grade out 5th best overall tonight. Not seeing all that much ownership. Slavkovsky's prices come down a little bit. Caulfield 6,100, Suzuki up to 65. 18,000 to full stack. I don't mind them here. Montreal, like you said, has had a lot of success against the Sens this year. And I think if it's going to continue tonight, it's probably going to have to be on the back of Montreal 1. But I do have I think I'm a little bit more interested in the Ottawa side of things, just because this power play, they cannot rely on this power play whatsoever. And this Montreal team has also played an alarming amount of hockey as of late. They've been, when they played Detroit the other night, I think it was 3-4. If I remember correctly, let's see, this week alone, I guess this is just their second in 5 games. They've had 2 days off prior to this, so I guess they're probably feeling a little bit better. They were playing a lot of hockey prior to this. What are your thoughts here on the Montreal side of things? I know you like to get to this top line. I know you love getting to that third line.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be getting to both of those lines here tonight. I think the top line's in a good spot. Again, it's going to be a motivated Canadiens team here looking to clinch that playoff spot. I'm fine meeting the field on that top line, coming in around 8%. I'll get up to 10, no problem there. This third line, I think they definitely offer a really interesting kind of get different spot here tonight. The pricing is pretty soft on these guys. Their numbers have been fine as of late here. But again, as you mentioned, the offensive success that they've had as of late is pretty notable. And the truth of the matter is like, even over their last 10 games, like look at the offensive or the DraftKings numbers, I suppose, for Brendan Gallagher, Dvorak, Anderson, 9.4 DraftKings points per game game for Gallagher, 7.8 for Dvorak, 6.7 for Josh Anderson. That's kind of what you're hoping to get out of a cheap third line, like that you think can have some offensive upside. I think obviously the zero matchup score is a little bit scary for sure here. They're projected to see, what is it? I think 48% of their ice time. 48% of their ice time going up against the Senators' top line. For as good as the defensive metrics have kind of been from an underlying number perspective, they're still giving up 2.5 goals against per hour. Nothing crazy or anything like that, right around median on the slate here. But I think it's an interesting enough option here if you're looking for some cheap guys to kind of play here. They're drawing literally no ownership here tonight, so kind of an interesting super get different spot. And at the end of the day, both Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher, 1.3 goals per hour of ice time over their last 20 games. So they're finding some ways to be successful. So yeah, count me in on some of this Montreal 3, and definitely I'm going to have some interest on that top line.
I forgot to mention, I was so excited to share my super fun graphic and talk about the 999 challenge at the start of the show, but it is Friday, so we will be raffling off a $50 gift card to nationgear.ca tonight. Is the new merch launched, Zach? I know some of the team sites have launched some new merch recently. Is that all a go?
Yeah, I think some of it is starting to come out here. So I think we got the Leaf stuff out right now. I'm sure we're going to have some of the other team site stuff coming out here really soon.
Yeah, so if you don't want to get some daily Faceoff swag, or you've already bought some and you want, and you're a fan of one of the Nation team sites, you can use it at one of those stores as well. So all you got to do is drop a comment in the live chat, and you'll be entered to win a $50 gift card at the end of today's show. Almost completely forgot about it. We'll also be raffling off a $25 gift card for Wednesday's slate, where was it 3 or 4 hat tricks? 4?
There was like a dozen, it felt like.
It felt like they just like hat trick. Did anybody pick any of the hat tricks, though? Like, I honestly didn't get a chance to check.
No, I don't think anybody did.
Nobody hit any of the hat tricks. And I mean, I shouldn't even raffle one off for that day. Like, if there's 4 hat tricks and nobody gets it, like, I think that's as many chances as you deserve. But anyways, we'll definitely be raffling off a $50 gift card at the end of today's show. All you got to do is drop a comment in the live chat. Let's get to game number 3. Tampa and Detroit. The Detroit Red Wings are dead for the, as dead as you can basically be without being officially dead. They are large underdogs tonight in Tampa. Played last night in Florida, got destroyed by the Panthers. Probably going to happen again tonight at the hands of the Lightning. Matchup-wise, this Red Wings new line combinations actually grades out pretty well defensively, outside of kind of that top line. Over the last 10 games, they have been much better defensively. The problem is the penalty kill still sucks. So this looks like an opportunity here where, the Lightning have been pretty hot offensively. The power play has been scorching hot. It's the number 3 power play advantage tonight. They have the 4th best power play against the 25th ranked PK. The real kind of only issue is that they're just not going to get a ton of opportunities tonight, but still one of the best matchups on the slate here on the power play. At 5v5, like I said, not the best matchups overall, but I'm not all that concerned. Second half of back-to-back for Detroit. Peter Mrazek between the pipes was a 3.9 implied total. There's a lot to like here about the Lightning, and Detroit I don't think is a super motivated group at this point now after some crushing losses this week. The top line is $23,900. Jake Gensel's expected to be back after missing last game due to personal reasons. They're outrageously expensive, but they're only seeing 10% ownership tonight, which I thought was pretty surprising. In terms of like raw projection, they're by far and away the most productive line. But then if you take a look at value, which also considers price tag, they're also the best value line overall. So they look like one of the best plays on the slate, hands down. The best matchup overall for the Lightning side of things is this second line. So we know how good they've been all season. I don't mind that. I've been a little bit cool on them here in the second half of the season since the Four Nations, but I think tonight with Brandon Hagel at 6,200 and Anthony Cirelli under 5K, I think tonight's a good night to get back to Tampa 1. I don't know for sure if it'll be Goncalves or Nick Paul there on that second line tonight, but either way, I'm fairly comfortable leaving either of them off. I don't mind sprinkling them in. I don't mind getting to Bjorkstrand again whenever the Lightning have a good power play matchup. I think Bjorkstrand's a strong one-off play at $4,300. So I like a lot of the Tampa Bay side of things tonight. Obviously, most of my exposure is probably coming on that top line, but I'm definitely mixing in the second line. Definitely going to mix in some power play full stacks, some Bjorkstrand one-offs, all those sorts of things. Look very appetizing tonight from a Tampa perspective. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at beyond the Edmonton game here and the top six of the Oilers, like I think this Tampa one line might be the most interesting line on the slate for me. If you don't look at the ceiling and floors of what Minnesota 1 and 2 have done, because they kind of skewed it with Wednesday's game against the Sharks there. Tampa 1 has the highest projected total on the slate, the highest, DraftKings points per game over their last 10 games, and the highest floor over those last 10 games. They've been absolutely tremendous. They're absolutely smashing left, right, and center here. You can build some really interesting lineups here tonight around this Tampa 1 line. So I've got a lot of interest in getting to them here in this spot. They've just been so good as of late. Nikita Kucherov been great against Detroit in his career, 21 goals, 52 points in 39 games. Sorry, Brock. Braden Point, 20 goals, 35 points in 37 games. Sorry, Brock. And Jake Gensel has held his own too with 6 goals, 18 points in 19 games played. Once again, sorry, Brock. But yeah, no, it looks like a really great spot here for this top line of the Lightning. Probably one of the lines that I've got the most interest in here tonight.
Yeah, just yes to everything. I was writing down some of these names, but yeah, a lot of sorry Brocks in there. I know that they are scorching hot right now. Somebody has a question here about the Kaprizov projection, and the Kaprizov Eriksson Ek projection the other night was off, and I think I forgot to fix it again tonight. So I'll fix that while we're live on the show here. And run through that again, because there was something off about Kaprizov the other day when these players return from injury. The projections do get a little funky, and I forgot to correct it on Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek today. So I'll tweak that while we're on the show here. But on the Detroit Red Wings side of things, with Vasilevsky projected to get the start, I don't think I got a lot of interest here. I think the top line is a line that I will still get to, despite kind of a lack of interest, just because they're seeing literally no ownership at all. 3%. You've got to bring out Larkin Kane all playing together. It's a power play unit that's in a really good spot tonight. So I think that the Red Wings can find some success here. The matchup's not great. The underlying metrics are pretty solid. They've been getting better. That line's played better as of late at 5v5. So I'll get to that line probably, and that'll be it for me from the Red Wings side of things. I like the power play matchup a lot. I like this line altogether at 5v5. Might mix in some Mo Sider, but it's mostly just because they're 3% owned. Are you going to get to Detroit tonight?
Yeah, I think I'll probably get like 5% on that top line just because of that power play being in such a good spot here. But that's probably the most interest that I've really got here in getting to this Detroit Red Wings side.
Okay, let's move on to game number 4. We've got the Edmonton Oilers and the San Jose Sharks. This game couldn't come at a better time, as I got to try to tweak the Minnesota Wild projections, and I know that you are going to be happy to go off on the Edmonton Oilers here, who are minus 397 home favorites. Take a sip of water, fuel up here. 4.3 implied total for the Oilers, 2.2 implied total for the Sharks. Matchup-wise, 100% matchup score for Edmonton 1. That is Connor McDavid and company. Second line, really good matchup as well. McDavid looked rejuvenated in his return to the lineup the other night. Looks really, really good. The underlying metrics here from both the first and second line are probably not what you would normally kind of be accustomed to seeing here from Edmonton. You got to remember, they're still missing a lot of bodies. It didn't matter against one of the hottest teams in the league. It certainly shouldn't matter against the Sharks tonight, who are horrendous defensively. If you take a look at the last 10 games, the Sharks have been a little bit better defensively, but still giving up 3.75 goals against per 60 because they just do not have any quality goaltending. The penalty kill has been a nightmare as well. It's a night where the Oilers are going to be wildly popular, and for good reason. If you take a look at the raw ownership here, the top line is the most highest owned line on the slate. The second line is the second highest owned line on the slate. McDavid himself is by far and away the highest owned player on the slate. They're really quite affordable, right? Like Connor Brown looks great, 2 goals against the Blues. He's $3,100. Skinner's been on a bit of a heater here in this new elevated role with some of these injuries. Arvidsson's been a lot better. Same thing as Skinner. Henrique, $4,200 has been fine. Zach Hyman looks like one of the best values at $6,800. I mean, there's so much to like about the Oilers tonight. I don't need to talk you into them, Zach. How much are you getting here tonight? But before we do, Isaac is wondering, purely ownership-wise, you have to project Edmonton to better value than Tampa, but probably not 3 times as much. Are you planning on just saying screw ownership here? I'm getting over the field in Edmonton.
Yeah, probably. I'm probably going to meet the field here on McDavid's ownership at around 40%. But I'm certainly going to be a little bit over the field here on both Jeff Skinner and Connor Brown. It's pretty cheap to get to these guys, all things considered. I mean, $17,100 to full stack Edmonton 1 with 100% matchup score here seems really, really interesting to me. A chalky Connor Brown doesn't really feel the best, but he's quietly had a pretty productive season. 11 goals and 28 points on the year in like 70 few odd games. He's been solid for the Oilers, and it feels like he's at his best offensively playing alongside Connor McDavid. Big shocker there. I think a lot of players are at their best offensively when they get that opportunity. Jeff Skinner has been solid as of late here as well. Really interesting to see what happens with him once the playoffs roll around and how the Oilers choose to use him. But even still, with playing some minutes on the third line, he's averaging 8.5 DraftKings points per game over his last 10 games played, 0.8 points per game over his career against the San Jose Sharks as well. So yeah, I'm certainly going to be getting to the field here on Edmonton 1. And again, like I said, a little bit over the field on the wingers here. It's definitely a little bit scary. Certainly entirely possible that they don't smash the way that they look like they could here tonight. But Georgi Romanov in the crease for the San Jose Sharks tonight. They had a huge offensive game against the Minnesota Wild a couple of nights ago. Can they replicate that here tonight? Yeah, sure. I could see it for sure. But, it feels like the Oilers blue line, could be a real difference maker for Edmonton in trying to limit what the Sharks can do out there tonight. But yeah, I've got a ton of interest in Edmonton for sure. This second line I think is pretty interesting as well here. $16,300, a little bit cheaper to get to here. Victor Arvidsson going to be on that top power play unit. He's been shooting the puck a ton as of late. Zach Hyman, he's a guy that he's due for some goals to come his way here. He's felt a little bit too quiet offensively for me, but he's still providing a solid floor and thanks to his shot volume. And the second line is drawing a bunch of ownership too, right around 20%. So like I said, I'll probably be meeting the field on Edmonton tonight. I think there's more than enough ways to kind of get yourself different from the field here with some of these other lines that we've talked about so far here on this slate tonight. I think there's some really interesting things you can do with your lineups.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to build around. Like you said, like you're kind of limited in terms of what you can do with the Lightning, but with the Oilers, it's completely different. Like you can build a variety of different lineups. You can stack them with, as many different basically combinations as you really want. And soaking up some of this ownership because they feel like they're in one of the best spots is fine because you can just pair them with lower owned lines and get yourself different that way. Have they had success? I haven't had a chance to look at it. Have they had success against the Sharks this year? Do you know off the top of your head? I imagine they have.
Yeah, I think the last game, the Oilers, it was like a 1-goal game, but other than that, the Oilers have pretty much destroyed the Sharks over the last number of years. I'll look it up quickly here while we keep talking.
Okay, I just wanted to let the people know. I'll have to do it on the main charts, but I did update the projections here for this Minnesota Wild. So Kaprizov now at 11.44. Eriksson Ek drops down pretty considerably down to 8.8. So the projections have flipped, obviously. It'll be interesting to see what the industry does with Minnesota after coming off such a ridiculous game. If you take a look here, they are averaging 46 points and 36.8 DraftKings points over the last 10 games. They've only played once, but those are just ridiculous numbers. 4 goals, 8 shots on goal from Eriksson Ek. Kaprizov, 2 goals, 1 assist, 9 shots on goal. So obviously a more difficult matchup tonight, but it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, back to the Oilers here for a second. Yes, and yes. When you take a look at raw value tonight, I mean, Zach Hyman, number 1, Connor McDavid, number 3, Arvidsson, number 6, Jeff Skinner, number 8. Lot to like about that forward group. The pricing is fairly reasonable given, the matchup. Then you take a look at the blue line. Mattias Ekholm returns tonight, $4,400. Projects as the second best value defenseman. Bouchard, Darnell Nurse, the 4th and 5th best value defenseman tonight. So anywhere you click here, the Oilers are popping up with, as just some of the top value, some of the best plays in the entire slate. And outside of McDavid, the ownership is fairly reasonable in my opinion. What are your thoughts there before we get to the Sharks side of things tonight?
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think you can build around this team and kind of eat this chalk comfortably and find yourself ways to get different with the other lineups. I don't really think I'm going to be diving into the depth pieces of the Edmonton Oilers here. Corey Perry may be interesting as a one-off at $3,100. He's continuing to find himself around the action on a pretty consistent basis. So dating back to the beginning of the 2022-23 season, the Oilers have gone 8-1 against the San Jose Sharks, outscoring them 45-17. they've been incredible against him. Connor McDavid, 5 goals, 15 points in 8 games. Evan Bouchard, 3 goals, 13 points in 9 games. Zach Hyman, 4 goals, 8 points in 9 games. Darnell Nurse, Matthias Ekholm, point per game guys in those games as well. Matthias Janmark, somehow 2 goals and 5 points in 8 games in those over that stretch as well. Kind of shows that the offense is kind of coming from a lot of places there. I got a lot of interest here in Edmonton. I think this is a spot where it's totally fine to eat this chalk.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk any of the viewers into it. Maybe they were planning on fading Edmonton, and we talked them very much into it. Romanov has, I mean, obviously he doesn't have a lot really going on in front of him. Why can't I find? There he is. In his, what is it now? 5 games, 6 games, excuse me. 4 starts, 402 goals against average, 873 save percentage. It's been pretty bad. On the Sharks side of things, though, I mean, as bad as they got just demolished defensively the other night, this is an offense that has kind of perked up here. Somewhat fortunate, not the underlying metrics are pretty terrible. The Oilers pretty solid defensively. Getting Ekholm back is going to help a ton tonight. The penalty kill has been very, very good for the Oilers as of late. The matchups here are slightly above average for both the first and second line. The underlying metrics are pretty solid as well. I think I'll probably get to a little bit of San Jose tonight. Like Macklin Celebrini, he's just been so productive, and it's just so hard to ignore what he's done as of late. Will Smith has been great as well. I don't mind that mini stack a little bit, probably 5-10%. The second line grades out 8th best tonight with Eklund, Wenberg, and Toffoli. I don't really like playing Eklund, Wenberg, excuse me, just doesn't have a very good floor. But Eklund and Toffoli, Toffoli helps the floor here for the second line. They grade out really well at 13,900, seeing just 7% ownership. Again, the matchup is pretty decent. They're going to see a lot of the third line. The underlying metrics here are pretty good. They play a lot. Like, I'll get to this top 9 or top 6 because they play a lot. The second line grading out 8th best at 13,900. I'm just going to kind of trust the charts, trust the process here. And it's not like Calvin Pickard is a guy that like really scares me off playing the Sharks site. So given kind of the goal explosion we saw the other night, I don't mind getting back to it. As an Oilers fan, are you planning on stacking the Sharks at all?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think I'll get there with some stacks for sure. Probably around Celebrini and Smith, Eklund, Toffoli. I think that's kind of the interest that I've got here. Again, we talk about Macklin Celebrini as a guy that you can play on a pretty regular basis because of the floor that he provides. So, I don't hate that idea whatsoever. And again, like you said too, man, like, the offensive explosion against Minnesota, they got to be coming into this game feeling pretty good. Celebrini in 2 games this year, he's got 2 assists, averaging 8 DraftKings points in those games as well. Tyler Toffoli, like, the guy always finds ways to score against the Edmonton Oilers or put up some kind of points. So, just like Marshark says here, like, he's planning on stacking the Sharks. That means you should probably stack the Sharks as well.
Okay, before we continue to the next game, I just want to answer a question here from Kyle. Hi, guys. Why does matchups scores of 100% not reflect the top line stacks? So the matchup score is basically just the defensive quality of the opposition. So let's just go with the example of Edmonton 100% matchup score, 45% of their ice time against the top line, 14% against the second line, 30% against the third line, 11% against the fourth line. So all those percentages against the defensive quality, the defensive score of San Jose 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives you the matchup score. So that's just based solely on how good the Sharks are defensively or the opposition is defensively. The stacks take the offensive numbers of those lines, also how much they're going to play into account as well. So that is based solely on the defensive quality of the opposition. The overall line stack ranking is based on how good they are offensively, but it also takes into account the power play. So the power play XG is a factor, and also the line projection is a factor as well. So it takes everything into account, where matchup score is strictly based on how good their opponents are defensively that they're going to face that evening. Hopefully that answers your question. Kyle, let's get to game number 5. We've got the Calgary Flames and the Minnesota Wild. Flames, Adam Klopka was outrageously high owned the other night. Very good value. Did not work out. I guess like on the positive spin side of things, he played more than any Flames forward at 5v5 that night. So I think it sets him up to be a solid value tonight. And I always kind of like these spots where a player was like 40% owned or 30% or whatever it was. And the next night, everyone's okay, kind of off him. Obviously, the matchup's way worse tonight, but at $3,300, playing a lot of ice time, he's still a really good value option tonight on that top line with Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau. Though matchup-wise, not great, as we know. The Wild are very, very good defensively. So are the Flames. The Flames have been much better offensively as of late. I like the Flames a little bit tonight. I think that when you take a look at the goaltenders tonight, in terms of the ownership projection here, Philip Gustafsson projected to be the highest owned goalie at 22%. I like Gustafsson. Do not get me wrong, but I think that the leverage you can get from the Flames here is pretty nice. I also like Dustin Wolf a little bit as well. So I like the Flames as a leverage play. I wouldn't be surprised if Gustafsson gets us up to like 25-30% either. So I like the Flames tonight. I think that top line, the underlying metrics for both these top two lines, really, really solid. The matchup, obviously not great. The power play matchup, obviously not that great either. But, their power play matchup is good, but their power play just sucks. So I don't mind getting the Flames as kind of like a get different spot tonight. I think this top line specifically at 15,600 is so easy to get to. Not seeing a lot of ownership. I don't mind that. The second line, the price tag starting to come down on both Coleman and Coronado at 13,500. They got a solid floor. I don't think their upside is probably great enough to like win you this slate, but if you want to kind of, again, get different here and try to bust some of that Gustafsson chalk, I think Calgary is somewhat interesting. I'll probably have 10%, 15% Calgary tonight. I think that they're a reasonable way to get different tonight with how popular Gustafsson is going to be. But don't get me wrong, I also have a fair bit of interest in Philip Gustafsson. So let's start on the Flame side of things. Where's your interest here? Is it mostly on the Minnesota side of things?
Yeah, like this is kind of a really interesting game. I mean, there's some pretty huge playoff implications in this game here. The Calgary Flames need to find a win tonight. It's pretty much as simple as that. Like if they win, they stay alive in the playoff race. They lose pretty much in any fashion, and you can pretty much write off the rest of their season for an early trip to the golf course here. So I think for that reason, I've got some interest in the Calgary side of things. I don't think I'm going to be going too crazy with my ownership here, but 5-10%, Calgary 1, Calgary 2, I think that's fine. Gustafsson has been, he's been a solid goaltender this year for Minnesota. He's really been good against the Flames in his career. 5 wins, 2 shutouts, 143 goals against average, a 953 save percentage in 8 games played. So I think that's a reason to have some hesitation. Obviously, there's tons of ownership coming in on Gustafsson here tonight at 22%. In the same breath, like look what just happened against the Sharks. Like I understand it was Marc-Andre Fleury, but the Wild, still a good defensive team, gave up like 7 goals to the San Jose Sharks. So I think this is an interesting spot. I honestly kind of expected there to be more ownership in this game. I really did. Like, I thought we were going to see more than what we're seeing right now. So I think for that reason, I've got maybe a little bit more interest than I probably should here. And I think that this Minnesota side looks totally fine here tonight. I mean, we saw what happened when, Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov came back into the lineup. So I'm comfortable building around this top 6 for the Minnesota Wild as well. Marco Rossi, not really a guy who's been putting up like a ton of points or anything like that. 2 goals, 8 points in 5 games played against the Flames in his career. Kirill Kaprizov, 4 goals, 7 points in 9 games played. I think it's a pretty interesting spot here. Matt Boldy too, 4 goals, 10 points in 11 games played. So I'll probably be over the field on ownership in this game. A little bit on the Calgary side, probably a little bit more on the Minnesota side.
Yeah, obviously the return of Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek worked out really well. Fleury just wanted to get that OT record. Absolutely love that. Gensel new dad narrative. Yep, that's always a positive. Congratulations to him. Matchup wise here, a little bit better for the Eriksson Ek line. So much chalk coming in on the Kaprizov line the other day. It's obviously balanced out a little bit, but Minnesota not seeing as much ownership as I thought. I thought people would just be excited that these guys are back and jam them in. And like Kaprizov at 8K, obviously I think is a fair price tag. Zuccarello and Rossi are probably a little bit too cheap, but man, Eriksson Ek feels way too cheap at $6,100. Don't mind getting Eriksson Ek. Boldy at 8,200 is a little bit more difficult to swallow, but like getting to Minnesota 1 and 2, I think feels fine here. Obviously, we know that the Wild are pretty good defensively. I think we obviously know that Dustin Wolf at home feels a lot better than on the road, and we kind of saw that in Anaheim the other night when they just absolutely collapsed late. But he's been playing great. Apr.11, 14.4 DraftKings points per game, is third behind Eriksson and Kaprizov. Zuccarello has been solid too. Rossi, Faber have all been pretty solid as of late. But man, this is a quality Flames team with a really good penalty kill. So I can kind of see why the ownership's lower, but like I don't mind mixing them in. Like I just don't think it feels like just everyone's only playing like Tampa or Edmonton tonight. So I don't mind mixing some of these other spots in because they feel good. Good enough. Like I do think that this game can be reasonably high scoring. I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Like just the magnitude of this game, it's massive. And you said it yourself. Like without Jake Middleton in the lineup, this team's a little bit worse defensively. They just gave up 7 to the Sharks. So why can't Calgary score tonight? And they just scored 8. Like why can't the Minnesota Wild get on the board again tonight in droves? And obviously getting Kaprizov and company back is massive. They've met twice this year, 4-3 shootout win for the Flames and a 5-4 win for the Flames. So both games have been high scoring. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that happens yet again. Andrei Kuzmenko had 2 goals and 1 assist in the last meeting. Marco Rossi, 3 assists. Zuccarello, goal and assist. Kaprizov had an assist. Like this game can get high scoring. I like getting both sides at low ownership, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's an interesting spot for sure. Again, the playoff implications are real. I think this is going to be a really intense game. And like, if this is a game that does end up popping off and being, 7, 8, 9 goals in this game in total, like it could really change the makeup of this slate, right?
For sure.
I mean, this is the last game on the slate here. 10 o'clock Eastern time start. Like it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of shakes out here because again, like I don't want to be left on the wayside and, losing money tonight because I didn't get enough Minnesota or Calgary.
Yeah, absolutely. From the Flames, Nazem Kadri, as we know, been the guy that's kind of been carrying their water, but Coronado's been hot. Huberdeau's been solid. Klapka's been solid. The second line as a whole has been good. Like those top 2 lines have been really solid as of late. Solid floors from basically both lines. Let's get to the not power play. Let's get to the defenseman. Zach, take it away.
Oh boy. Blue liners. Matthias Ekholm popping in terms of a value. He's projected right now to be on the 3rd line. It would not shock me in the least at all to see him on the top pairing again with Evan Bouchard where he normally is. Thomas Chabot looks like an interesting kind of lower owned play, drawing just 5% ownership. Obligatory Jack Thompson reference here. $3,100. His price is not moving. He's averaging 9.7 DraftKings points per game over his last 10 games. He has been absolutely tremendous. I don't know why people don't want to play him, but I will continue to do so there. Alexander Carrier, I think he looks like an interesting pivot option. A lot of block volume from him as of late. Probably going to be trying to live in that 3K, 4K range tonight. Liljegren looks good as well. Rasmus Anderson. You mentioned Luke Hughes earlier. I think he's an interesting play as well here tonight.
Agreed. The one thing I'll get to it in a minute. Matthias Ekholm, $4,400, I think makes a lot of sense. Not seeing a lot of ownership. Jack Thompson, obviously. Kevin Ball, I think, still a solid play. Lucas Carlson, probably a guy that sees a little bit more usage tonight with Mario Ferraro out. Jack Thompson, Lucas Carlson both feel like they're going to be better plays at very cheap price tags tonight with Ferraro out. So, I'd like to see Darren Radish bounce back a little bit, get a little bit more ice time, but it looks like they're probably going to continue to go with 7 defensemen. It's less than ideal there. In terms of the public, who are they playing? A lot of the top-end guys, but Ekholm, Hughes, Spurgeon, Anderson are all guys that, Pesci that are all drawing some ownership here as well. Lucas Carlson. Kulak, I think makes sense too, right? $3,700. You want to get to some of these cheaper Edmonton defensemen and also guys that are going to be a little bit lower owned to get off of some of that Edmonton chalk. I think that is a fine play as well. Alex Carrier, man, too, just blocks so many shots. Is he the shot block god of the night? We haven't done one in a while. Yeah, of course he is. Mackenzie Weegar, a lot of shot block volume there as well. Following up on that, do line stacks include the defensive matchups? Yes, they do. Ekholm is cheap. Yes, he is. You guys haven't killed the Minnesota-Calgary game by saying it's going to be a low-scoring affair. It's actually the opposite. Usually we turn a low-scoring affair high-scoring. So if we want to stack Minnesota and Calgary, we should say this looks like it could be a low-scoring affair because now it will undoubtedly be a high-scoring game. So you're welcome if you're stacking that game tonight. And I'm so sorry if you planned on fading it because now it's for sure going to be high-scoring. Okay, goalies tonight. Andrei Vasilevsky, $8,200. seems like a tremendous play. I really like Vasi tonight. Picard doesn't seem as safe at $8,400, nor does Jake Allen at $8,300. So Vasilevsky is probably my favorite pay up option. Linus Ullmark has had some absolutely outrageous performances this year as well. I think he's a good play. He's a guy that can just pop off from massive DFS nights. At $8,000, I feel better about paying up for him and Vasilevsky than I do Picard and Jake Allen. Philip Gustafson, as I mentioned, the highest owned goalie in the slate, feels really solid at $7,600. But I love the pivot option of Dustin Wolf. I think that the Flames can definitely win that game. I think he can have a huge night. I like that pivot option off of some of that Minnesota chalk. The leverage you get with a Wolf win tonight should be pretty substantial. I like getting there. Montembeault, I mean, great game against the Wings the other night. He's also capable of having huge performances. We've seen many this year at $7,400. I think it makes sense why him and Gustafson are seeing the most ownership. They both have capabilities and pretty good matchups of being smash plays tonight at cheap price tags, and the other cheap options just don't feel nearly as good. But I will say, Tristan Jarry doesn't feel that terrible. Like, we showed the Devils 5v5 metrics, like, they're awful. I think there's a world in which Tristan Jarry, as the lowest owned goalie on the slate, is a decent play as well. It's probably not a guy I'm going to get to a ton, but I'll sprinkle him in if I need a $7,000 or $7,100 goalie. I feel much better about him than I do Romanov and Mrazek. And that matchup with the Devils right now doesn't feel like one in which you should be a $7,100 goalie, right? Like, the injuries and all that just doesn't feel that great. The Devils have been solid lately, but not amazing either. So as long as they can stay out of the box, I think Jarry's a fine cheap play tonight. Who are your favorite goalies?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Philip Gustafson at $7,600, you can see why the public's getting there. Again, great numbers against the Calgary Flames in his career. Andrei Vasilevsky, I have no problem getting to him at $8,200. 16 wins, a shutout, 2.08 goals against average, and a .932 save percentage against the Detroit Red Wings in his career. Sorry, Brock. For me, I've got some interest in some of these other guys too that are kind of lower owned options, like Linus Ullmark, Jake Allen, Dustin Wolf. Like, you can talk me into playing these guys. Their track records against the opposing teams hasn't been that great or anything like that, but Ullmark's been really solid as of late. His floor's been great in the crease, averaging 11.9 DraftKings points per game over his last 10, just looking at his saves and goal against numbers. So, for me, Vasilevsky's probably my favorite play, then probably Gustafson, Ullmark, and Jake Allen. And again, I don't mind getting down to $7,100 Tristan Jarry either. Could be an interesting spot.
Alrighty, let's get to today's daily face-off, our head-to-head lineup challenge. Just kidding. Just wanted to bring that up again because it's so much fun. Let's get today's hat-trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in today's hat-trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat-trick pick in the comment section of the video, not the live chat. If your player scores a hat-trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. We got a couple giveaways before we go as well. I won our last head-to-head, so I will go first. I'm going to take let's go new dad Jake Gensel.
Got him, McDavid.
Shocker. I was going to pick him, but I'm like, this is just too easy. Okay. So we're not going to give away $25 for Wednesday's hat trick. You had 4 chances. You didn't get it. It happens. But we also did the double down here of the Jordan Binnington own percentage, which probably came down because McDavid was ruled in, but it was like 29.6%, and CFL Fan nailed it at 29%. So CFL Fan, I'm 99% sure you are in the Discord. We'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. No hat-trick pick winner that day, but 29% Binnington is good enough for me. Let's get to today's $50 giveaway for dropping a comment in the chat. We've got 15 entries today, so here we go. $50 to Nation Gear. Isaac W. It's our winner tonight. Congratulations, Isaac. If you are in the DFO DFS Discord, please reach out to me there. That's the easiest way to do it. If you want to just join the Discord, the link is in the description of the video. Also, if you want to reach out to me on Twitter, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Brock_Seguin or at DFO Fantasy. We'll get you hooked up with that $50 gift card, and then $25 to CFL Fan. Thank you guys so much for all of that. Javier says, Dan, so close. Yeah, could have bought your 1-year-old daughter a DFO hat. That would have been a good way to celebrate your first birthday there. Okay, that's going to do it for this edition of the DFO DFS Report. As you know, next week final week of the regular season. So we'll be here Monday through Thursday next week for the 4 days of games to close out the season. Obviously, going to be some wonky lineup things going on in those games. We'll do our best to navigate all of that. But if you could do us a favor, smash that like button. Really helps us grow the channel, helps us grow the show. It's been a long grind this season. We appreciate, a lot of familiar names in the chat throughout the season. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Smash the like button, help us out. Also, thanks to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get $20 off your first month of RotoGrinders and premium, doesn't have to be NHL, it can be MLB, PGA, whatever you want. $20 off. You can click the link in the description of the video on YouTube. Also down there is the link, as I mentioned, to our DFS Discord if you want to join that as the season closes out here. We've got channels for other DFS sports too if you want to talk to some like-minded people about different sports. That's fine too. Come on and join the growing community there. And once again, just make sure you tune in next Friday to Zach's 999 challenge. He looks very excited about it. But thank you guys so much. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy the Masters. Enjoy the hockey. And we'll see you back here on Monday. Until then, cheers.